Walker. I'd like to welcome you to the Kern County Genealogical Society meeting for,
I can't hear.
Well, a microphone. For February. We are very pleased today to be able to have some special guests, and because Mary has done such a fabulous job on our programs, we're going to have Mary do all the introductions and get things rolling. So thank you very much for coming out today. We really appreciate it. And here's Mary Carroll, our Vice President for Programs.
I became aware of the Buffalo Soldiers because of my interest in the Civil War and the Daughters of Union Veterans. The Buffalo Soldiers came out of the Civil War. They did do service in the Civil War, but their major thing was the settlement of the West, including park rangers and a lot of other things. And I was just made aware of a bicycle corps of Buffalo Soldiers that I didn't know about before. But we are very fortunate to have them with here today. And I'm going to introduce the first one, and she will introduce the rest. And there are some handouts out there, so if you don't have one, please pick one up on your way home. It is my pleasure today to introduce General L. Slade.
Thank you all for taking time out of your very, very busy schedule to come and let us do a wonderful, we think it's a wonderful presentation. Presentation about history. Not just the Buffalo Soldiers and Civil War, but definitely how our country, what we call today the United States of America, was developed. Bill of Rights, our Constitution, the first presidents. Who were your first presidents that were born under British colony? Who was the first president that was born under the United States of America? So today you're going to, hopefully, leave with some information you knew, maybe some information you didn't know. But at least you'll leave with some information that you can continue the cycle of passing it on to the next generation. At this time, I'd like to introduce some of the officers that are here. The Commanding General, A.W. Lee. He is not present today, but he is the Commanding General, the Commandant of the Buffalo Soldiers in Bakersfield since 1994. We've been here. At this time, I'd like to introduce Colonel, who is our chaplain, Colonel Sandiford. Colonel Sandiford, before he comes forward, continue standing, sir. He wears a community hat. The community hat is clergyman. He is a pastor. He also wears another hat, a professional hat, a hat under education. Teacher, retired principal, but he also donates time in his retirement to return to some of the schools to fill in. So I present to you Colonel Sandiford, who is over our educational component of the African American Network of Kern County. Each one, teach one, Partners in Progress, Buffalo Soldiers presentation. Standing in the rear is Brigadier W.A. Slade, IT, but he is a retired numbers man, the accounting, for the Kern High School District for over 33 years. He is a community volunteer in building computers, teaching computer technology, moving young minds, adult minds, even me, into STEM. So Brigadier W.A. Slade in the middle. At this time, Colonel Sandiford will come forward. The presentation is, of course, the Buffalo Soldiers. Colonel Sandiford.
Thank you, General Slade, and certainly it's good to be here this afternoon with the Daughters of Union Veterans of the Civil War. Had the pleasure of meeting several of you last year at a couple of functions that we jointly participated in. My role today is to talk briefly about the Buffalo Soldiers, a part of American history. And I'll begin by saying that the African American soldier played a decisive role in the United States Army on the Western frontier during the period of 1861 to 1891. First authorized by Congress in July of 1866, they were organized into 2 cavalry and 4 infantry regiments, which were commanded by white officers, but whose enlisted personnel were African American. The mounted regiments were the 9th and 10th Cavalry, and the foot regiments were the 38th, 39th, 40th, and 41st Infantry, later consolidated into the 24th and 25th Infantry. All were quickly nicknamed the Buffalo Soldiers by their Cheyenne and Comanche enemies. Until the early 1890s, these troops consisted approximately 20% of all regular forces on active duty in the American West. By 1891, they had participated in approximately 130 actions against hostile Indians in Kansas, Indian Territory, Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, and the Dakota Territory, as well as Mexico. 22 members of the various black regiments were awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor for extreme bravery and courage under fire. Countless others received commendations. Besides their battle record, they performed the everyday task of protecting settlers, travelers, and workers alike. They built roads, erected forts, plus thousands of miles of telegraph poles, all of which brought civilization to the American frontier. A correspondent of the Army and Navy Journal left one of the best testimonials to the qualities of these Buffalo Soldiers. On a campaign with the 9th Cavalry in New Mexico in 1881, he recalled, "On the march or in camp, they are cheerful and obedient. Their horses are well cared for. And in 2 companies, I have seen but one man lounging in his saddle. And he had more white than black blood in his veins. No falling out of ranks or watering at different times. There is every evidence to show that they will and do fight well. Their own, as well as other officers and citizens who have fought with them, attest to this fact." And so, just a tidbit of information about the Buffalo Soldiers who paved the way to the American West as our United States of America moved westward and developed. Thank you very much. General Slade will come at this time and carry on with the rest of the presentation today. Thank you.
I'm going to quickly move towards the state of California. The first governor of California, and only governor of color, was Pico Pico. He had African, his Mexican, and Native American blood in him. And he was elected as the governor of California. It was called Alta, the northern portion. And he had 2 terms here. Later, after his terms ended, he moved to Southern California, San Diego. He was considered one of the richest men here in California. But he is considered the first governor of color, black. They call him mulatto. And I represent Kathy Williams, the African-American woman who disguised herself as a man. Her name was Kathy, but she reversed it to William Kathy. And she joined the Civil War in disguise, and then later became part of the Buffalo Soldiers. So that is why you see me representing Kathy Williams, who reversed her name to William Kathy. Would you please come, Mr. Traco Matthews? He is with the Kern County Superintendent of Schools. He also sits on the African American Networks Board. And this is why I was saying, if you're not doing much and you've not met Dr. Mary C. Barlow, you can attend our luncheon and have a conversation with her. Mr. Matthews, would you say a few?
Sure. Thank you so much, Dee, for having me, inviting me to be here today. And hey, how are you? I recognize a couple of familiar faces. Hi, Leah. Great to see you. Just honored to be here today to represent the African American Network and also Kern County Superintendent of Schools. I am one of the HR directors there. And so we are committed to being advocates for children and supporting all of the 47 districts. And this is my first time getting to actually attend this event. So I look forward to enjoying the video with all of you in celebrating Black History Month. So thank you for coming out today. Truly appreciate your presence here, and thanks again for having me. Thank you.
They built the roads. They were your first police, sheriff, park rangers, and they protected. So yes, the Sequoias and the Yosemite. And as you walk through the trails of either one of those parks, you will see bridges that are still there that they created way back in the 1800s. And there was one park ranger still alive, the very first African-American park ranger, and that's in Yosemite. And if you go, sometimes you can set up a tour with him. And maybe next time I'll show you that DVD about the parks of California that the Buffalo Soldiers built. And incidentally, people ask, why were the Buffalo Soldiers in this leadership role of Reconstruction era, the Reconstruction years after the Civil War? You have to remember the slaves had skills, master builders. So that was the reason that they were the leaders in putting back the West and also parts of Kansas, the Midwest, parts of the South. So that was the Reconstruction era that the Buffalo Soldiers really played a major role.
Can you tell us more about your California organization as Buffalo Soldiers? How many units there are?
In California, there are a number of units of Buffalo Soldiers. Some of us do reenactment only. We don't. We're the educational arm. We do the educational presentations, but there are northern and southern, and last year we had a gathering. It's called the Cowboys. Do you know the Cowboys of the West were black? Also, I forgot to tell you that, slipped my mind, what is our cowboy that lived in Bakersfield? Bill Pickett. Bill Pickett actually had an aunt, 2 aunts that lived here in Bakersfield, and he actually came to Bakersfield, and they lived on N Street. And so Bill Pickett was part of the rodeo. And we combined the rodeo and the troops for events, or we get together. So there are like California, there were 20 of them that came last year in May, and they're coming back again. And so there are 20 different troops. Some of them are the reenactment. You see them in the Rose Parade. That's the Southern California Buffalo Soldiers. We have some in Fresno. There are some going up to that quarter of Sacramento and in that area. And they do a lot of schools, and groups invite them to do presentations. So about 20.
What the Buffalo Soldiers were known for in their service was their tenacity, their loyalty, their courage, and all the things that we need in today's society. And these folks here today work with the youth in Bakersfield, trying to instill those qualities in today's youth. And it's an ongoing project. I'm sorry Tony wasn't here today because he is a wonderful spokesman as well. And he's been very kind to the Kern County Genealogical Society because he's had us on his radio show. He's done a lot of different things. But I want to thank you so much for your program here today. Thank you. Okay, we're pretty well close to the finish. Want to remind you that next month our program is going to be on the census. And you're welcome to come anytime. Kathy Walker and Linda Adams have gone into the census records, and they're going to explain a little bit more clearly some of the things that are available that not all of us know, me included. So they will be, March 19th? And we'll probably be back in the Tejon room, but I'm looking at our audience here today, and I'm not sure we ought not move down here because I think we're growing a little quicker than we thought we were. Anybody have anything else to add today?
We have a new member today, Darla.
Oh, cool. That's right. Stand up. Get some applause. We also have a new organizational member, the Daughters of Union Veterans of the Civil War, 1093.
All right, thank you.
Okay, anything else from anyone? Again, generals, by all means, we've got all sorts of cookies over here. There's coffee over here. There's some of Irene's fabulous things. So please join us, help yourself, and thank you so much for coming today. Kathy?
I have nothing to add. I think Mary did a fine job.